Hi folks, welcome back to this special video. We've just come back from the North York Moors in a week where Kaylee became a teacher, the kids became Vikings, I became seasick, and we went looking for two of Britain's rarest birds of prey. So join me as we rewind back to the start of the week for this backyard aviary big family adventure. We left the aviary itself in the good hands of Kaylee's mum and Tony and set off for Rosedale Abbey on the North York Moors. After arriving pretty late on Friday night, we settled down for the night in the lovely cottage we'd hired, and upon waking up in the morning we decided to have a little look around the village. It's a pretty, quite twee little village. We found the local church, which was beautiful, found a park for the kids to have a bit of a play. After posing with royalty, we took a stroll back to the cottage, grabbed the car and had a drive over the moors to the next village. We stopped along the way to explore the old iron mine. It was fascinating, the views were great, there were loads of birds including lapwings with young, meadow pipits and willow warblers. We headed on to the next village and found Rydale Folk Museum. So we decided to have a look inside. This museum was fantastic and great for kids. After putting the wife in the stocks and the youngest stepdaughter in the stocks, we found a room where the kids could dress up in period costume, and I took some photographs of them. They even got me dressed up. Then it was to the old schoolhouse, where Kaylee dressed as the teacher. This was pretty scary. As I said before, there was plenty for the kids to do, things for them to pick up and play with. What a great place. There was loads of old farmyard machinery, and we even found some chickens too, which made us feel at home. Whilst heading back to the cottage along the moors, we saw a lovely load of curlew, some red grouse, and unusually a white pheasant. On the second day we woke up to rain, although it did clear up pretty quickly, and we headed to Filey on the coast. After getting the girls some buckets and spades, we headed to the beach so they could have a run around, a jump in the sea, and they could make sandcastles. They were having a great time. Olivia learnt how to levitate. Luckily she came back down. But then the rain started again, so we had to all get out of the sea. We headed to the bumper cars so Emily and Olivia could crash into each other a few times. Then after a game of crazy golf, we headed to Bempton Cliffs. After being there a couple of weeks ago, I thought it needed a second visit. Although Albie the albatross wasn't there, he'd been there in the morning and flown out to sea, there were plenty of other cool birds, like lots of gannets, puffins, razorbills, kittiwake and fulmar. And mirroring what happened last time I was there, on the way back to the car, I saw a beautiful tree sparrow. On day 3, we decided to go and explore York a bit. With the girls being big Harry Potter fans, we had to go and find the Shambles, which looks very much like Diagon Alley. It was very busy, so after nipping into the Viking shop to get Lily a sword, we joined the queue for the shop that must not be named. This shop sells all the Harry Potter memorabilia. The girls explored the shop excitedly and picked up a few bits and bobs. After coming out of the shop, we headed out onto the main street where there was lots of stalls from the Jorvik Viking Centre. The girls posed next to Viking boats and with Viking weapons, Some of the people on these stalls are very interesting, telling us much of the history about the Vikings and York. More on our second trip to York later. The following day we woke up and took a trip to Thirsk Bird of Prey Centre. This is a small, although very good, bird of prey centre who attempt to keep all of the birds they get and get them all to fly in displays, so they're all working birds within the centre. They specialised in eagles and vultures mainly, although they did have some falcons and smaller birds of prey. They also had a kookaburra. On their first flying display of the day, the first bird they flew was a Steller's sea eagle. These are very large, intimidating eagles, but incredible to watch fly. The second bird they flew was their hand-tame and hand-reared kookaburra, which was a really entertaining bird to watch. They also flew a barn owl, 2 white-headed vultures, a hooded vulture and a white stork. Following this brilliant flight display, we went to get a picnic and were quite quickly joined by a tame peacock called Percy, who lives at the stately home next door and often comes for a spot of lunch. We also had the privilege of one of the keepers feeding a baby caracara. Unfortunately, I didn't get any footage of this, but it was great to watch. After wandering around taking some photos, there was a second flying display. This display they included some slightly different birds, including a great horned owl, which was a real character, a crested caracara who liked to pick things up from under logs, a turkey vulture and a golden eagle. This was a great place to visit and I recommend it to anyone who's in the Thirsk area. We then headed back towards the cottage. The weather was starting to get bad, which set quite a moody scene as we drove over the moors. The following morning we headed to Pickering. We'd booked a train from Pickering to Whitby. The start of this journey was on a steam train. This was a real treat for the kids because they love train rides. We sat in the 50s built carriage as it weaved its way through the North East Yorkshire countryside. Finally arriving in the seaside town of Whitby, the home of fish and chips. The first thing we did when we got to Whitby, after having a very quick walk, we found some fish and chips. And what better place than Popper's Fish and Chips? This place had been on the BBC. After a really nice meal, we headed out to the harbour and decided to go on a short boat ride just out of the harbour into the sea and back. It was a lovely day, and for the most part, we really enjoyed the boat trip. I must say I felt a little bit queasy at times, but I don't really have the sea legs for it. Then safely back on dry land, we had a walk past the harbour and then it was time to take off back to the train station. Unfortunately, there was about an hour delay with the train, but when it finally came, the first leg of the journey back was on a diesel train, 37 class. Partway through the journey, we got off the train and swapped trains and carriages and got on a steam train. Whilst walking down the platform, one of the guards was watching over a baby great tip that had flown into one of the windows on the trains. It seemed startled, but it'll survive. On this final leg, we passed a station that was used for the filming of Harry Potter, which excited the kids an awful lot. The last full day, day 6, we went back to York Jorvik Museum, to check out York's fascinating Viking history, as well as an incredible amount of very old museum pieces from the Viking era. There was also a ride which was on a track. It took us around many scenes from the Viking era. These were very, very well done, with many reconstructions of situations within Viking York. I took some footage, although it was a bit dark. On the videos you can see some of the moving models of Viking people, chickens, dogs and buildings displaying how things were built 1,000 years ago. This was absolutely fascinating, and as well as all these models, there was also commentary on a screen in front of us in the carriage. Following this brilliant journey back into York's Viking history, we went to the gift shop where Olivia bought an obvious souvenir, a set of panpipes. We then went off for some food and headed out of York. The following morning it was time to go home, so we packed the car to the brim again, but I decided to make a slight detour on the way home to Scarborough Raptor Viewpoint. Some people had seen some honey buzzards and goshawk there recently, so I thought it was worth a bit of a trip while I was in the area. The viewpoint had a stunning view. We saw signs of potential goshawk activity, but no goshawks, although we did eventually see a honey buzzard. It was far, far up in the sky and in the distance, but it was great to see, and a new bird for both of us. Lifer. Then it was time to say goodbye to the North York moors and head back home to North Wales and our birds in the backyard aviary. This was a hectic but fun week away with the family. Thanks so much for watching. There's more aviary updates and more adventures on the way. Please like and please subscribe. See you next time.